A love letter to Conqueror's Blade. The year is 2003. Kid me is playing Age of Mythology. I am mesmerized by the story, the different units and the scale of the fights. So much so, I replay the campaign, acting like I was the hero unit, leading my small little army. I even opened the editor to play custom battles. Oh son of Osiris, how I miss you. Fast forward to 2008. I am playing World of Warcraft. I love questing in Elven Forest and the other zones. While wandering through the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, I suddenly get this idea. What if there was a game where you could command an army with your hero? I told my friends about this idea, and they loved it. But back then, you couldn't get more than a few people in a single match. Don't even think about people commanding armies and fighting each other. So we forget this idea. No one would make this game, because it just seemed too impractical and just too large of a scale. And then 2021 came around. While I was watching a German content creator, I saw they were playing a game with friends and he was leading a squad of soldiers. It looked like a mix between For Honor and Mount and Blade. I instantly was amazed by this game, the scale of the fights, and that I had never even heard of it. So in the same minute, I looked it up, discovered it was free, and 2 minutes later I was already downloading it. Of course, being free to play, I knew it could become very expensive, as free games are usually the most expensive. So I was cautious but curious. The first games came and went. I cut my path through various grey and green units while watching videos about this game. It felt amazing. The tutorial, if you could call it that, was clunky and sadly felt like a mobile game where everything wants to grab your attention and you get rewarded by literally anything, even adding someone to your friend list. This was the first game in which I didn't feel the constant need to win every game. In League of Legends, for example, the only thing important is to win and climb the ladder. And in War Thunder, you get so much less rewarded for losing. But in Conqueror's Blade, I always liked just playing the game. And when we lost, it felt like I did what I could. My team as a whole just couldn't overcome the enemy team. And I didn't feel like I lost out on the rewards. It always felt like you get rewarded by what you actually did in the fight. As I climbed down the Conqueror's Blade rabbit hole, no one really cried out that it's pay to win. I only saw weapon and unit guides. They seemed kind of wholesome. Of course, there are pay to win fanatics that argue that anything that gives you any slight edge is pay to win. But in my opinion, I could play this game happily without feeling the need for a boost to unlock units slightly faster. Sure, it's nice, but it's not mandatory, because every unit I encountered, I knew I could unlock myself with reasonable dedication. Also, in the early game, they throw a lot of free stuff in your face. Maybe this was the catch. Maybe it is like in mobile games, where you come to a point where the well runs dry, and you need your wallet to keep the momentum going. A quick glimpse into the future. No, it gets a little slower, sure, but you always feel like you're making progress. I instantly went for the Spear Sergeants as they got recommended to me as a 4-star unit and were pretty easy to get access to. And my oh my, I almost felt like a god. Me and my bodyguards just walking through the enemy team and their units. Shield walls didn't stand a chance. Archers, try firing through my mobile shield ball of death. Heroes, don't even try. But as I rose in level, so did my enemies and their units. Suddenly, I could not just face a whole unit on my own and come out the other side laughing. I had to use my unit smarter than my enemy, so analysis and reflection were pretty important. I learned it like I always do. I got completely destroyed and then tried to figure out why I didn't win that altercation. What unit could I have used to win it? What other options were there? Why was the enemy stronger? And boy, did I get overwhelmed. There were so many units and unit types that I could not keep track of everything. Melee, ranged, cavalry, divided into Western and Eastern origins. Swords, shields, spears, pikes, even halberds, bows, muskets or crossbows. Every type also has different tiers. And why have I never seen a game using javelins as weapons? Not only that, every unit had its own talent tree to choose from. This was the first sign that told me this game is serious. they really put effort into the foundation of the gameplay. This tech tree still amazes me. It feels like a mix between the intricate design of Age of Empires and the vastness of War Thunder with its different nations and multiple tank variants. But that's not all. Imagine my surprise when I saw units that weren't even on the tech tree. I got set aflame by medieval grenades and flamethrowers, cut down by Ottomans with giant axes, run over by Templars and shield bashed by angry Italians. Conqueror's Blade somehow managed to make an overwhelming part of the game, the many units, even more overwhelming by introducing the concept of seasonal units. But this added further depth, which I really enjoyed. You see, seasons change every few months like in other games, and with that you get a new map, sometimes a new weapon, but most importantly, about 3 new units, ranging from Viking berserkers and Chinese monks to crusade-themed knights and even Mongolian warriors on foot or horseback. However, the most important thing about those new units is that every single one is unique in their playstyle, sometimes giving an already established archetype a new twist. For example, the Sereks are a Mongolian infantry unit which instead of a sword use a mace that causes bleeding even through enemies that block with their shields. Or the Samakian stalwarts, which are my lovely spear sergeants on steroids, because they can plant their polearms on the ground, shielding themselves, and basically become the strongest bunker in the game. Don't rush in there. But much more interesting are the new mechanics they implement with some units like the berserkers. They may only consist of 8 units. However, they have, if I recall correctly, the most hit points per model in the game, and make use of a rage meter that fills while fighting and is used up by enabling their abilities, which in turn basically makes them unstoppable in the fight, while also getting a damage buff and regeneration. You don't want to face them alone, trust me. Time flies while playing this game. I amass a few hundreds of hours of playtime on Steam, grind through the tech tree, gather seasonal units and basically just love this game. Never have I felt pressured to spend any money in order to keep up. And mind you, this game is developed by Booming Games, a Chinese studio. We all know about the Chinese video game market's monetization. Also, Conqueror's Blade is published by My Games in Europe and North America, and they too have a certain reputation. So you can understand my suspicion at first, followed by my surprise after countless of hours of not paying and still loving the game and playing the crap out of it. That's precisely the reason why I then decided to buy the Battle Pass and 30 days of premium. Sure, I felt a decrease in the time it takes me to unlock tech tree units, but it felt more like supporting the studio for not being like I feared they might be, and less like actually buying a product. I was happy to pay. So far I haven't even touched on the gameplay itself, so here we go. You play as a warlord and you get the choice between 12 weapons and 3 armor classes. You could play as a tank with heavy weapons like the poleaxe or glaive, a spear or musket soldier in medium armor, or with the different bows become an assassin from afar, or close up with the dual blades while wearing light armor. So far, so normal. But let me tell you, the sieges are insane. You fight at the side of 14 other warlords while trying to besiege or defend a castle, fort, or even city against another team of 15 warlords. Every single one needs a unit of between 7 to around 30 soldiers, which in turn makes every battle feel epic and in some way even bigger than only 15 versus 15. If you were to ask me how it would feel to take part in a siege in real life, I will tell you to play Conqueror's Blade. You can't get any closer as of today. Not to mention the replay value is insanely high. You may only get a handful of maps and one every season, but combining the scale of the maps with the amount of variation of units you can bring and encounter, and that in every siege something different happens, makes this game, in my opinion, infinitely replayable. Of course, there will emerge a certain way of playing certain maps and certain units, but so far, this game does not have a meta in the way League of Legends does with their lanes and who goes where. Every game feels like almost organized chaos, followed by improvisation. Hell, I have won games where everybody gave up, but we managed to pull through. And I lost games where we demolished the enemy's attacking wave but couldn't hold against their second wave. Therefore, every game may start out the same, but evolves into something completely different every time. For all I know, you could start pushing a siege tower at the start of the game, like usual, only for a defender to surprise you by rushing out the front gate with his cavalry and basically disrupting your whole team. I hate it, but I love it. And the seasons came and the seasons went. I got closer to around 500 hours of absolutely loving the crap out of the game and trying to get my friends to enjoy it with me. Then there came a time where I started to play less and less. At first I thought it was getting repetitive, only for me to pick it up 2 days later and being in love with it all over again. So I thought I just play this game sporadically, but then very excessively, only for me to start playing it even less. Nowadays, I am looking at Conqueror's Blade in my Steam library, sitting on 700 hours of playtime, and it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Now I think I can finally say it. Conqueror's Blade, I love you, but it's not me. It's you.